Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a discussion on One Vision. So, there's another update that just dropped, and it's one that's going to be one of those fun moments where we are partially in uncharted territory because new tech got discovered. Oh, I love these moments. So, let's go ahead and break down patch 1.07, starting at the very top here. First and foremost, Heal 4 and All Heal 3 Arcana will no longer drop. Interesting place to start, moving on. Fix these skills on some of the endgame bosses and other minor issues. From what I've heard, these were extremely random niche things, so that's good. Now, claw side grades, first of all, have a higher resistance bonus. Now, why does this matter? So as far as the side grade bonus on the claws, one of the main issues that that any users of these things would run into is the fact that they weren't necessarily always that useful. So, like, their main purpose is to punch something and make its MP go bye-bye. Unfortunately, stuff like the ninja would be the optimal use case for something like this. But in their particular instance, I know I was using the Cipher Shard in addition to Silver Talons here to try and give them a better chance of actually surviving this engagement before. This gives them better ability to actually shrug off the kinds of things that would actually counter them. See, if they're countering casters, those casters can also counter their high evasion through things like overheads, things like draconics and whatnot. And most of the time, they did not have the defense to take something like that. And additionally, just their resistance and other stuff was pretty low. So in this case, without having to sacrifice a ring slot for resistance, you can use, for example, dual talons. To be able to go and get close and punch something's MP right out of its head. To better shut down casters and things like that. This will become very relevant in a moment because now this means that they're now given the better opportunity to, instead of simply always going for the poison one target and then attempt to put somebody else to sleep approach, now it actually makes sense for them to, for example, shrug off 100% hit moves through their high resistance, since it really does not take too much of a bump in resistance to make things like Judgment or Firestorm actually do 1 damage. But on top of that, they can basically suppress 1 unit while tanking some of the stuff that previously would have countered them. So that's a fun little thing there. This is the most minor note on this update. It's just one that I personally really liked. Okay, next, one-handed side grade swords have the same agility bonus as the default version instead of half. It also now has a higher avoidance bonus. So this means that you can have a sort of offensive Swordmaster Knight type of shtick going on, with stuff like this falchion here, giving them a 15 evasion boost. For the sake of comparison, a shield of a relevant type would give a fairly more noticeable bonus, but comparing this with the basic sword there, basically gives them a 14 attack boost as well as 3% extra scaling, which doesn't sound like much, but basically this means that with this update, these swords are far more on parity with a sword and board combo. Basically means that they're not simply choosing offense, that they can be close enough in evasion to still make an evasion build work on a heavier unit that can use swords. So for this, I think that'll be a really solid change, but the next one is one that I have a feeling will almost certainly get nerfed. So this is the two-handed sword side grade. Now inflicts slow instead of stagger, and also has 1 more rank of overpower and a slightly higher damage bonus. Now, the reason for this is because people were generally kind of losing favor as far as the two-handed sword heavy versions went. That they were already basically the hardest hitting weapon category in the game, but they were so freaking slow that oftentimes it felt like you were far better off going for one of the other heavy categories. Simply because stagger wasn't giving them much. Now with slow on there, and granted their damage was increased too. But with slow on there, this basically means that if they touch something, they can now keep up with that something. Now, this was, again, already one of the best weapons for one-shotting anything in the game, so we'll see how this plays out. I have a feeling that slow will end up turning into some kind of recovery time delay or leaden or something down the road, because slow is pretty freaking strong. Anyway, we'll see how this plays out, but it's one of many things you'll notice over the course of this video. One of very many things that the warrior class is getting a hell of a lot of love for, because being able to, for example, hit something with slow, as well as also being able to hit without the ability to be countered, means that they could effectively shut down something like a Terror Knight from ever doing anything harmful again. So yeah, Warriors became a very effective hard counter to Terror Knights, in my opinion, in that particular, oddly specific way, but let's go ahead and move on here. Alright, next, the Wukong Blade has a slightly lower agility penalty and one more rank of overpower. The Wukong is a semi-unique-ish, basically just like it's a set drop, but it's a weapon that you get later on in the Elemental Temples, but it is a one-handed monkey grip sword, essentially a two-handed sword that can be used in one hand. Its main thing is just that it's super unwieldy to use, so it's not necessarily useful on a whole lot of things. Now, that being said, I always kind of found it kind of weak, but anyways, with a lower agility penalty, more overpower, maybe it'll become more consistent. I don't know. We'll see. But are you ready for more warrior love here? Because one-handed spear side grades now are pronged spears slash tridents, so sprites were shifted around a bit and some weapons were renamed. They now have a chance to inflict hobble in addition to their mind bonus. So this would be here. Let's. I think I had one on you. I think I had one on my other skeleton here. Where are you, Mr. Skeleton Warrior? Okay. So yeah, mind bonus for resisting casters and things, and then additionally will be inflicting hobble on you. So this means that you can get double hobbles from something like a warrior, and additionally for something like a dragoon, this makes it a hell of a lot easier for them to go for those follow-up kills against those annoying flyers that are getting away from them. Most of the time they take a couple of attacks to get the job done, so it's good to see that might give them another option there, but it's also just good to see more hobble in general. I think this is a fun change. This is one of those ones that doesn't necessarily shift the meta anywhere, as if there's a meta for a single-player game, but it does add some fun new tools to play around with. Alright, next, the Longinus has been switched to default one-handed spear, as the sprite does not match, as there are less default versions in endgame than side grades. This one's been asked for a while. Basically, it all says it right there. Longinus is the kind of standard divine one-handed spear, more or less. So now it's a basic spear kind of thing. Personally, I don't like using the Longinus because it looks like a lance, and I hate when stuff looks like a lance. I don't know. Jousting lances look super dorky to me, but that's, again, just a personal thing. In all versions of this game, I never liked using the Longinus for that reason. Alright, next, one-handed katana that do piercing damage will be a bit lighter and cost less recovery time to use to compensate for their damage type not matching their finishers, which I believe there was a bit of a bonus discovered there. I'm not sure. But yeah, basically, they just do more. So, this actually connects with the next point of the Goddess Bound will now have +1 parry and +1 katana rank skill, a small agility bonus, and hit more targets one tile further, like rapiers do. So the rapier category got yet another sacrifice. Also, it's just kind of fun. I really like the rapier category. Like, it's not always useful, but you find those builds that it works on, and it's fun. Next, the Goddess Scorned has a penalty to intelligence instead of mind. By the way, for those unfamiliar, I should probably explain this a little bit. The Goddess weapons, apparently they're from, God, what's the... one of these games I can't remember the name of. But apparently Rakes is a big fan of one of these... It's not quite Diablo-like. It's kind of like roguelike-ish. Why can't I remember the name right now? I'm sure if you just Google it, you can find it. But anyways, yeah, there's the 3 Goddess weapons from that one, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, so Goddess Scorned has a penalty to intelligence now instead of mind, so it can hinder spell usage without penalizing spell resistance and avoidance. Its res bonus has been lowered, as it's now a straight bonus instead of a penalty reduction. Alright, now this one will be explained in just a moment, but this is the big one. This is the one that a hell of a lot of people were saying was never going to be possible, that Rakes seemed to say was never going to be possible, and yeah. So, now that healing scales better with mind, caster staves got a mind bonus as the same bonus as the side-graded staves, as they would be more useful to healers. Their intelligence bonus is lower, but the total spell power you get from both stats is a bit higher than before. Next, default crossbows have a bit less attack, so that would be, let's go over to one of our crossbow dudes over here. So for the sake of comparison, there's just a bigger bonus towards standard crossbows as opposed to their other versions. In general, I would say just like in general, it feels like just exactly what it should be there. That if you land the poison on the scorpion, you typically will be doing the same damage as the ballista for a bit less weight, but for most general purpose things as well as finisher damage, the basic crossbows would hit harder. Personally, I like the poison crossbows on my on stuff like the necromancer and whatnot. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on. By the way, I apologize for the constant throw clearing. We had snow again. I can't help it. Also, bolt casters got adjusted. They can hit at point-blank range again, as the AI apparently doesn't understand the gap on that type of targeting range. So they're back to how they were before. That was a very brief moment where they had a one-tile gap. Alright, so, hang on, quick little coffee break. Alright, so, Fusiliers lost access to Fumarole, as it wasn't very useful on a long-range class. The class is now a little tougher, and it got First Aid instead, so they can provide backline support. Having a skill like that would probably be more handy for traveling mercenaries that hate magic. Now, First Aid will be explained in just a moment. Fumarole, for those that forgot what it is, it's essentially a magic suppression grenade that the Fusilier used to have. It's going to be over on the Commando now instead. But basically, it's like a relatively short-range grenade that gets rid of MP and gives a bunch of anti-casting debuffs. So, very, very useful stuff there. Okay. Next, Juggernaut. Please make sure not to misread this one like I did, forcing me to redo this entire video. But Juggernaut has a bit more magic resistance, as in they got buffed, and their movement cost is lowered to match other generic melee classes. Again, don't read that as their movement range got reduced, because their movement range is still the highest. Well, the highest for units on their own 2 feet anyway. They are still at a movement range of 6, but their movement speed is now improved, so they will move faster, they will resist better. As if the Juggernaut wasn't a complete badass before, it's even better now. Alright, yeah, the Juggernaut in general is one of my absolute favorite classes in One Vision right now, just because, like, Momentum is hilarious. You give them Anatomy, you give them Momentum, and they can just basically run up and shield ram stuff and just sit annoyingly in the other side there. It's hilarious. Anyway, Buccaneer lost access to Fumarole. Commando can now learn Fumarole instead of Tyrannico. He got tired of seeing Jump in the Ocean and Swim Back Japan in his inbox. Alright, Cyclops is a bit tougher and has more accuracy, which, I mean, good. Alright, fair enough. They had a little bit of an issue hitting stuff before, so we'll see how that plays out. Personally, I've had a couple of them on this team. They were exactly okay, as well as the obligatory zombie Cyclops. Which, it's still funny to me that one of those random changes in Reborn was moving the zombie Cyclops to the very final dungeon of the story. It just feels like such a, hey, were you wondering what happened to this guy kind of moment. Anyway, funny memes, Matsuno, moving on. Okay, spells and abilities. Now, here's the big one, and this is the one that people are going to need to give some feedback on. Alright? Stuff is probably going to get janky. This isn't in the patch notes, I'm just letting you know. Somebody's going to find out something that can be busted somewhere. We're in that phase right now. So, the scaling of divine spells has been reworked. Previously, they barely scaled, and you would get something like 5 extra HP per 100 mind. Or 2 HP per 100 of the target's vitality, because it scaled from multiple places, because of course it did its tactics ogre. But it was also lowered by the target's resistance by 3 points per 100 mind. Yes, you heard that right. You resisted your own healing. By a higher rate than your vitality boosted. Again, very Tactics Ogre moment. It was also boosted by Healcraft on both the caster and the target. Which actually, this was a new interaction that I'm shocked I never realized that was in the system before. Basically, Healcraft causes you to receive more healing on top of actually boosting your healing. Again, I can't believe I freaking missed that. Alright, and also Jewelry Light Resistance, while being resisted by Spoil Heal in all sources of light resistance. So yes, that light armor that you were equipping was resisting your healing. But none of this made much difference because the base amount was in single digits for most of the game. Big thanks to Gibbed for finding and discovering all of this information. So basically, he finally cracked the code and managed to find exactly where it was, like mechanics-wise, to allow all of this stuff to be played around with. So yeah, that took a hell of a lot of digging. Like, never underestimate just how much work goes into this mod, because they've been digging for a long-ass time. I've been seeing inklings of this information for months now, and you just see all these little bits and pieces, like somebody discovers something here, something is discovered over here, and then eventually it becomes a patch. It's wild seeing this mod in action. Anyway, so, let's see. Divine healing spells now heal 1 point of HP per 1 mind, so it does go directly now. 8 points per rank of augment light, as well as 10 points per rank of racial skill. This base amount will get a 20% increase from Healcraft, 30% reduction from Spoil Heal. It's also affected by Prevailing Element and increased by Jewelry Elemental Resistance, but won't be resisted by anything. We'll see if it scales well enough, but it can be adjusted as needed. There are a few more things, likely effects and conditions that affect it, but I couldn't find what they were, so let me know if you notice anything else affecting it, like a status effect or a readied state. And again, when it comes to this, yeah, ideally, go and report it over on the One Vision Discord, but if you just have time to leave a comment, I'll make sure that it gets over to them as well. If you find anything in this patch, just feel free to leave it on this video, and we'll pass it on and all of that, because there will be stuff that affects it. Like, I know personally, as far as I could tell, the whole mind change seemed to affect things like Harvestans, but I couldn't really tell to what degree. But additionally, I would have expected to go use something like Fear to be able to reduce healing, but apparently due to the fact that healing was already in kind of a very stationary state, seemingly by intention, in the original version, it was sort of in this weird spot where it was given a free pass from a lot of things. So, for example, Fear doesn't seem to affect what it does whatsoever, but again, we'll see how that goes. Additionally, due to the fact that it says that it's being resisted or unresisted by different things, I'm assuming the no resistance part. I actually wonder if something like Light Averse causes you to get healed more. Gonna have to test that, because that would be an interesting little tech if you could. Anyway, there's a lot to test. Okay, there's a lot of little interactions. There's gonna be a lot of stuff to find. So whatever you see, if you see anything kind of funky or whatever else, go ahead and report it. Okay, if you're unsure whether something is already known and it feels like something stupid, leave it as a comment. If you're pretty sure that you discovered something cool, go leave it in the Discord. We'll figure all that out. Okay, so since healing scales better, there's no need to have as many tiers, so there will just be the basic heal for classes that would previously get heal 1 to 3, and dedicated healers will get the more powerful heal 2. In the same vein, only dedicated healers will get all heal 2 with a larger area. Additionally, I actually skipped a section here. So divine spells, yeah, I read the first half of this and not the rest. So it will be 1 point of HP per 1 mind, 8 points per rank of augment light, and 10 points per rank of racial skill. This base amount will get a 20% increase from Healcraft, so we partially covered that. One thing I want to point out here is that it actually shifts up the usefulness of a certain of one particular unit that was kind of neat, in terms of the fact that Angel Knights actually have a bit of a unique moment here, where they're actually one of the very few classes, if honestly almost nobody gets this, they're one of the very, very few classes that actually gets access to not only anatomy, but also augment light, as well as heal at the same time, creating a situation where they actually would be able to possibly be one of the best healers in the game at this point. So this might give the, and on top of the fact that they've already got really good mind, so we might see a sudden jump towards actually wanting to use Angel Knights as replacement Clerics down the road, which is pretty cool, because as much as I love how much love Clerics get in One Vision, because through the rest of the series they always get laughed at, yeah, they are frickin' powerful in One Vision, so to see them get one-upped by something would be pretty nice. Anyway, I would see these more as the low-cost, you don't need Mother's Blessing type of version of armored healer kind of situation, but we'll see how that shakes out. Anyway, so let's see, what else is different? Okay, so her blessing will also now have 100% chance for fear. That's not Mother's Blessing, by the way. That's the effect on one of the goddess weapons. I think it's Goddess Bound. Let's go find out. But it's the one where you basically stab yourself to give yourself quicken and then to inflict fear on everything around you. Again, a reference to a thing that I don't really know, but it is what it is. I think it's a 1 HK, isn't it? Is it Unleashed? Okay, it's the Goddess Unleashed that has that. Okay, so moving on. Black Mucus now costs 30 TP and 10 recovery time. I think that used to be 40. So we'll see if the AI starts spamming that more. I feel like it was already pretty darn good. But I guess somebody must have complained. Okay, Fell Seal has 1 extra range and will also deal some damage, making it useful against other targets, but the cost will now be the same as the touch abilities from the Princess and Heretic. The Petrify part will still only work on Undead and Umbra. So, Fell Seal is basically a long-range, just like quick little divine shot that also disables Undead. So that's available on Angel Knights as well as... actually, did I ever... should be over here. As I recall, for whatever reason, it wasn't showing up on this one. I think it's because I don't currently have a Angel Knight on this particular thing. I don't know. I ended up having to actually go look it up on the resource when I was looking it up earlier. But yeah, for whatever reason, I think it's, again, because I don't have an Angel Knight on this team, it's not showing up as an unlock. But it's a class it's a skill that's available on the Priest, the Angel Knight, and something else, I can't remember. But basically, yeah, it's a combination of Seal Evil from FFT, as well as a cheeky little reference to Fell Seal in its own right there. So, fun little move there. Alright, next, Princess's Whim is now cheaper, and the effect lasts for a longer time. So, Princess's Whim is the one that gave somebody hasten and sped up their turn, while going and draining them of all of their accumulated TP. So, a little bit oddly specific, but it allowed you to potentially kind of reorganize your team for one quick maneuver. Let's see. Ennokos Winds will now heal some HP and grant reflection to self. Alright, so I'll actually go back to the other save file for this. Okay, so here we are on the other save file here. So yeah, Ennokos gives you a small amount of HP and gives you a reflection. This used to be a resistance boost. So basically before it gave you sidestep and renewal, now it gives you a reflection instead of that resistance boost, again letting him lean even harder into the whole kind of action man that evades everything type of mindset here. Additionally, one little funny note on this. This is, as far as I'm aware, completely unfixable, but a weird little discovery, because originally, for some reason, I was mixing up Ennokos and Featherstep, but if by any chance you've ever noticed that there's a weird little stutter whenever using Featherstep on any class that can use it to select a tile that is off-screen, that is a system issue. It's nothing to do with the mod or your emulator. It even does that on original hardware. In most emulators' cases, they probably will be processing it fast enough that it won't matter. But if you're on original hardware or on a lower-end computer, if you've seen that, again, that's not just a you thing. That's just some weird quirk of the system that I never expected anybody to move that far. Okay, let's move on. And by the way, it doesn't seem to have any actual like adverse effects. It's just a weird little quirk. Okay, next up, added First Aid, a cheap skill that will heal some HP and removes 1 debuff. That's that skill that Fusiliers got access to. Personally, I can't help but think that it was somehow related to the First Aid move that showed up on the basic soldiers in Unicorn Overlord. There's almost no chance that that's why, but I just can't help but think of them just holding up their rifle like they hold up the spear. Anyway, okay, next thing, Recall. And this is probably, despite all this other stuff, this is probably my favorite thing. So, Recall was renamed to Entomb, a skill that will be able to still living allies. So let me go over to that real quick, because as if I wasn't using the Necromancer enough. Where the hell's their skill here? There we go, Entomb. So, stills a living ally or undead. So, instantly stills an undead like he used to before. So they can rise again in several turns like the undead do. Living allies will not be able to be exercised during their power nap as they aren't undead. And before anyone starts saying, hey, wow, that's a cool new feature, this is a fun discovery that was taken out of One Vision a while ago. Because this is the old Evanescence effect from PSP and Reborn here, where you would use Evanescence to self-destruct and put yourself into a sort of nap time state, right? Now, the thing is, nobody fucking used that skill, ever. Even from the comments that I saw in the video I was making about it a little while back, like, just nobody used that skill. So, I don't know if it's because of that video or if it was discovered separately, but it was a fun little thing there where suddenly this skill that got taken out for being useless actually has a useful mechanic that's coming back from the mod. And that's one of the amazing things about this mod. Every time some new shit is discovered, it comes back as some new feature. It's wonderful. So yeah, in this case, it's the Necromancer casting it on somebody through their skills, allowing them to essentially serve as a sort of shield for somebody else. I can already tell you this is probably going to be abusable to all hell, and I don't care. Because it's freaking amazing. But yeah, it's one of the very few things that was done in the other versions that for a moment, anyway, was not available in OV, and now it's back. Okay. So, abilities used by some endgame bosses like Radius, Umbra, or the Sunny Side Up Cataclysm will now inflict the same status effects as their Dragon Breath counterparts. Next on Consumables, removed Heal 3, Heal 4, and All Heal 3 Arcana. Heal 2 and All Heal 2 will be available at Deneb's and POTD shop for now. To me, I'm reading that as they will probably find their way into San Bronze at some point, but for the moment, they're hanging out where you'd expect them to be. Deneb's and POTD shop are typically where stuff goes before they find a more fitting location. And then next, the Blackwing Leg and the Lover's Tarot card will inflict Spoil Heal on use again instead of Hobble. So basically the Hobble got moved to the Spears, the Spoil Heal, instead of being taken out of the game, now actually seemingly has a use again, so that's just good to see. Remember, the Spoil Heal will be a lot more useful now that healing actually scales better. The descriptions on Instill Light and Instill Dark, as well as Augment Light and Augment Dark, have been updated to show that these skills protect against the opposite element, unlike other instills and augments. And I should probably also point out that the averse things also will kind of have a sort of a team thingy going on. Also, hold on. Sorry, I was going and kicking something in the background here. I have a big old bottle of IPA that I use for cleaning stuff, and accidentally knocked it on top of my power brick. I was freaking out that it might leak. Anyway, so okay, so the whole Instill Light, Instill Dark thing. Funny little thing on this, because it was obviously when it came to those two elements, they always had a little bit of a funny relationship, but there was so much stuff pushing on the scale that a lot of stuff couldn't be directly confirmed. So, like, if something was hit by averse, like light averse or dark averse or whatever else, it was still affecting the opposite thing. So, anyway, the weird thing is, in Reborn's case, they ended up leaning into it and just kind of officially saying, yeah, light and dark just kind of hate each other that bad that it just goes both ways. In this case, they've gone and updated it to match the description and whatever else. It just feels like it's just a funny little moment of everyone's universally agreeing that there's no fixing that. But I just find it funny that it's always kind of been there, and it's a solid little example of how many little bits and pieces there are in this game that, like, even those of us that have been playing it for years oftentimes will chalk up to something completely different. It's why oftentimes when something's discovered for the game on a technical level, that oftentimes it can mean something completely different. Like, I know it's why I got into a bit of an argument a while ago with I'm forgetting his name right now, the numbers guy. Why the hell can I not remember his name right now? You know who you are. Over the fact that technically something like the dark element on the fairy kisses in Reborn was just a flavor thing and not something that's actually supposed to be scaling. But it's all, like, it's funny because it's all potentially open to interpretation. Because so much stuff has mechanics that either didn't go anywhere, or maybe don't have a purpose, or are meant to counteract each other 7 or 8 times just for the purpose of being chaotic. Like it's such a bizarro project, but you gotta respect the the commitment to the bit, you know. Like, well, technically, you know, the material on that thing also kind of resists it, but also the weather kind of resists it. Also, their skill kind of resists it. But you know, they went to med school that one time, so they knew they'd kind of need to shrug their shoulder a little bit to make it resist another way. Like, there were just so many moving parts in Tactics Ogre PSP. Oh, it's hilarious. But yeah, so one version is always leaning into fixing what was broken and making all this stuff just work. So yeah, that is the patch update for right now. So remember to go test out any and all healing type of stuff. Report any known weirdness to the Discord. I'll remember hopefully to post a link in the description. Actually, I don't even know if I can post a link in the description because like the New Game Plus forums makes you go through this whole thing. Because like you gotta go through their thing to get a link from their website to then redirect you to their Discord. Which then, I mean, it's kind of a gatekeeping kind of thing. Anyway, if you find anything super weird, it's fine to just skip all that and just leave it in the comments here. Again, I'll pass on anything that I see here, and maybe there's a chance that Rakes will pop by too. But yeah, that's about that. That is this one. I'm really happy with all of it. Especially, I'm happy to see that the Juggernaut got improved even further because this is already one of my favorites. Like the dude just. They're just great. Like, what do? I move really fast, and then I just don't dislodge myself ever. Anyway, so that's about that. Y'all have yourselves a good one. Go try out this patch at your soonest opportunity, and have yourselves a good one. All right, take care.